Nice to see everybody here tonight. How many of you were here in November? And you came back anyway? There's still time to escape, by the way. It's all good. It's all good. Wonderful to be back here in Talent. We're going to have a little bit of fun tonight, I hope, to make a little bit of a difference. Most of you probably remember this character. Hopefully, you've been working on these aspects of ourselves ever since then. For those of you that have not seen this, let's let it be just a gigantic mystery to you what we're talking about. But the whole goal of tonight is to work on the part above our neck, and we're going to spend some time on that. But before we get into that, let's have some fun. Who's down for a math test? Okay, a couple of people, 2 people, that's pretty good. You're going to love this test because it only has one question. What is half of 8? 4. What else is half of 8? 3. Okay, good. Couple of answers. 0. That is the top half of 8. What's the bottom half? No, it's an O. And the right half, somebody already said, is 3. What's the left half? E, kind of an epsilon shape, right? What if we look at it like this? This is also half of 8. But since I have some very technical people here, I know you appreciate this notation better, right? Maybe you remember learning these kind of numbers. What number is this in Roman style? Number 8. So now, half of 8 is 6. Or if we look at it this way, half of 8 is, or 11. And if we look at it this way, half of 8 is 5, or maybe 11,111. And if we look at it this way, half of 8 is 8. That's logical, isn't it? And what if we look at it this way? Here we have the word 8. So if you like Italian food, you probably had a lasagna al forno. And if you ever go to Paris, France, you'll see this big tower called Le Tour Eiffel. So that's the other half of 8. So the question is, how many answers do we have so far? A lot. That's the perfect scientific answer. A lot. There's 12 or 13 answers, and there are more, but this is a very family program, so we want to keep it clean. The whole point of it is, it's a fun question to ask. First, I said, who's down for a math test? And 2 people said, yeah. And everybody else, oh my God. Fun to see that. And then I said, what is half of 8? And I was pretty pleased that at least 2 people almost immediately knew with great confidence, 4. And somebody else said, I've checked on my calculator. Yeah, it's definitely 4, dude. Totally 4. But who said 0? You said 0. What made you think 0? Because you've seen this before. Who said 3? Had you seen this before?
No.
What made you think of 3?
I just said half, so I took the picture and made it half, pretty much.
So you took a visual picture of an 8, you cut it in half, and there was a 3. It's cool. And now look at all these answers. It's like baby rabbits just appearing out of nowhere. Now, how old were most of you when you learned that half of 8 is 4? I was 12. But probably you were little, right? 5 years old, 6 years old. Remember your teacher would ask questions? And she'd say, okay, class, what is half of 8? And you do exactly like you do now at university. You threw your hand in the air and you said, oh, please pick me, pick, right? No, not so much. Teacher, half of 8 is 3. No, teacher, she's wrong. Half of 8 is 11,111. No, teacher, they're all wrong. Half of 8 is 0. No, teacher, I know half of 8 is le. Parlez-vous français, madame? What would your teacher have done? My teacher would have said, we are not amused. Go to the board and write 4 10,000 times. Resistance is futile. Wouldn't have taken very long to knock it right out of our heads, right? Now here's the question. Is 4 a correct answer? Yeah. Totally a correct answer. It'll never be marked wrong. But it's not the only correct answer. That should be encouraging to some of you because you're dating someone right now. You hope they're not the only right answer. But the fact is, sometimes in life, there are many, many correct answers. And it's a matter of how we use our brains to determine how we get there. So I thought we'd have a little bit of fun with some of this here tonight, just a little bit, for something a bit different than maybe we've experienced most of us in our schooling time. Something a bit different. We're going to talk a bit about how the brain works, how the mind works, Let's see if we can have some fun with this. First of all, this is called My Fun with the Computer Not Working Correctly. There we go. Who's familiar with what we know as self-talk? Who's heard of self-talk before? Okay. Some of you are saying, I don't think I know exactly what it is, but I'm going to raise my hand anyway. That's fine. So let's start with what self-talk is not. Self-talk is not grabbing a mirror, looking soulfully into the mirror, out, I'm a tiger. I'm a tiger. I'm a tiger. Rah. I do not recommend you hold up a mirror and do that. Because if you look at a mirror too much and say, I'm a tiger, something really horrible might come out of the mirror. So you don't want something like this coming out of the mirror. It's a bit frightening, so we're going to get rid of that as quickly as we can. But instead, what we want to do is talk a bit about how our minds work in terms of our attitude and self-talk and how much that relates strongly to our attitudes and what we go through in life. We're going to take apart the brain here just for a few moments. We all perceive things. We perceive through our eyesight, through our sense of touch, through our hearing, through our taste of smell, and our taste of taste, unless we have COVID. They only perceive through 3 of those. Is it possible that we can perceive things incorrectly? The perception might in fact be confused or fooled. Let's see if we can come up with a couple of examples. Let's look at some perceptional examples here just for a moment. Look at these lines. Do they appear to be slanted or do they appear to be exactly parallel? They look slanted, like you could roll a ball down it. But if we took a measuring stick to that, we could measure it and we would discover, in fact, they're exactly parallel. But because of the way it's drawn, it's a bit confusing to most of us. This is a fun one. Count the black dots. This one is crazy, isn't it? And this is not an animation. This is just a still image. But the way the light hits our brain and the optic nerves, it's creating an interference pattern where it's causing black and white to appear in alternating style. There's actually no dots at all. Just our brain wants there to be dots there. It creates them. It's kind of fun. Now I've got a reading exam for you. This is a simple sentence in English. So I'd like to have you read this silently to yourself for just a moment. And please raise your hand when you're finished reading. It's not too difficult. Okay. Great. Now I'd like you to read it again silently, and this time count the number of times you see the letter F. F like Francisco. All right. Not too hard. So let me see. How many of you see 3 Fs? Raise your hand real high. 3 Fs, okay. Good. Who sees 4? Who sees 5? Who sees 6? All right, now wait a minute. Are we looking at the same thing? Let's count them again. All right, now with confidence, who sees 3? Very good. Who sees 4? You see, and the person next to you sees how many?
4.
And the one next to you sees, what do you see, young lady? 6. And you see 4? You see?
5.
Here, borrow these. So you see 4.
6. 5.
All right, now this is really weird. You see 4, you see 5, you see 6. Now your friends are depending on you to see more than 4. They need you to see more than 4. That's not helping, is it? Okay, who sees less than 6? Let's be honest. Let's have some confidence here. How many do you see? You see 3, you see?
4.
And you see?
6.
6. Okay, how about a little bet here?
Sure.
You think there's only 3? You think there's 6? How much are you willing to bet on this one?
All your money.
Okay, let's stop the suspense. The fact is, there are 6 Fs up there. There are 6 Fs. If you don't see all 6, count the number of times you see the word of. 1, 2, 3. And what's the second letter in of? F, and that's the grade some of you get today. Now, this is a really tricky one, isn't it? Some of you go, hey, wait a minute, man. Where do those Fs come from? Where are those effing Fs coming from? This is a really frustrating thing for some of you. And now who can see 6 Fs? This is a great bar trick, by the way. You can win some bets on drinks doing this one. It's a lot of fun with people. Now, in fairness, the reason it's difficult to see all the 3 small Fs is because when we learn in English to say the word of, what's the sound we're hearing? It's more like a V sound, isn't it? So if you're an excellent reader, it's very hard for you to see all the Fs. So I just insulted everyone in the room for a different reason. This is a crazy one, isn't it? And the bet that these two almost had, you would have given up a lot of money on that one. And the young lady back there, I said, the group is depending on you. Can you see more than 4? And she's going, oh. Okay, good, you win. Good job. Here's the whole lesson here. As leaders, and all of you will one day be leaders of other people, if someone cannot see something, no amount of pressure will cause them to see it. If someone can't see something, even telling them the group is depending on them won't help them see it. And if someone can't see something, even the promise of money will not help them see it. So we must first be able to see things before we can be inspired to achieve them. Does that make sense? So is this so much fun? Anybody getting ready for another one? Oh yeah, you're saying, bring it on, Dan. I'm ready now. Let's see if we can get another one. Do you see a young lady? Who sees a young lady? Who sees an old woman? Who sees both? And who never raises their hand no matter what the question is? Okay, cool. So once again, who sees only the young lady? Anyone see only the old woman and no young lady? And who sees both? Okay, so if you only see the young lady, those of you around you that can see both of them, try to help them see the old lady too. Talk for a minute, try to help them see the old lady. This one is so much fun. Now, who's been trying to explain it to someone else? Who's been an explainer and they're not getting it, right? It's so frustrating. Some of you going, look at the neck, look at the neck. Just check it out. And those of you that are trying to see it and you just can't see it, some of you are nodding and they say, can you see it? And you go, no. I definitely can see it. No, it's crazy, isn't it? But in fact, once you see the old lady and the young lady, you can see them both over and over very easily. Again, it's about perception and how perception can be confused or can be fooled. Here's a fun one. Write this one down. This is a very common English word you're all familiar with. It's called Basain Exleatnatiers. Basainxleatntears. You can type it if you want to on your device. Basain Exleatnatiers. Everyone try to say that one time out loud. Basain Exleatnatiers. I have good news for you. That word is nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. But here's your puzzle. If you will eliminate 6 letters, you'll reveal a very common English word. All you have to do is scratch out, eliminate, or cover up 6 letters. You'll see a very, very common English word. If you've seen it before, keep the answer to yourself. 6 letters. Let's see if we can eliminate 6 letters, reveal a common word. Now, the girls always get this one first, unless the boys do. 6 letters, that's all we have to do. Most of you are kind of struggling with this right now. Who would like a bit of help? Anybody like a bit of help? Okay, let me give you a bit of help. In English, how do you spell the word six? S-I-X. S-I-X. And how do you spell the word letters? L-E-T-T-E-R-S. So we can find 6 letters and eliminate 6 letters. What are we left with? Banana, you win the banana. Congratulations, you win the banana. All you have to do is eliminate 6 letters. And some of you are beginning to get a little frustrated with me, aren't you? Oh, come on, Dan, this is not fair, man. Okay, well, you know I don't have to play fair. I am the presenter. So this is kind of fun for me. I enjoy this very much. So let's try, are you ready for another one?
Yes, sir.
I see, yeah, bring it on, man. Okay, I'm ready, I got you now, I'm prepared. How many words are on the board? Some of you going, I don't trust you. There are 2 words up there, new and door. This time you don't have to eliminate any letters, but I'd like you to take the letters in the 2 words, reorganize them to make 1 word. You have to use all the letters. Please stay in English for me. And you can only use each letter 1 time. So we have 2 words. I want you to put them in a different sequence, a different order, and make 1 word. That's all we got to do. All we need is 1 word. Got 2 words, you just need 1 word. People in the back always get this quickly. Not so quickly. Got it? Okay, good for you. 1 word. 1 word. Got it? Okay, good. And some of you are going, oh, I'm not getting it yet. I'm frustrated, I'm painful. Who would like a bit of help? It's okay to want a little bit of help. So what we should do, let's start with one of the letters O. Then do the letter N, then the E, the W, the O, the R, the D. And what do we have? 1 word, and now you're getting very pissed off at me. I know you are. Now here's a question for you. What makes this puzzle so frustrating?
It's obvious because we know how to do it, basically.
Exactly. It's frustrating because it's exactly like the first one that you failed at. And you said, okay, I'm ready now. And I hit you again. And second, as you were struggling to get these answers, what was I saying out loud? The answer. And some of you were saying, I wish Dan would just shut up. I'm trying so hard to get the answer and he keeps saying 1 word, 1 word. Just be quiet, Dan. I want to get 1 word. Which means sometimes the answer is so obvious, but humans take simple things and make them very, very complicated. Has anyone ever done that in their own life? Take something fairly simple and make it really complicated? If you don't think that's true, remember trying to get out of bed this morning. Simple things can become very complicated. Well, what's the whole point of this nonsense? The whole point of it is we don't necessarily perceive things accurately. Perception can be distorted. It can be confused. It can even be managed in strange ways. So when we're seeing something, we say, am I seeing the truth? Or am I seeing the truth as I see it? Sometimes there might be an automobile accident with multiple witnesses. They interview the witnesses. It's amazing how many of them saw something different and it was the same accident. We don't always perceive things accurately. So let's get a little bit deeper into this stuff. We're going to open up the top of our brains and look inside for just a moment. Possibly you're not fully aware that inside the brain there is a person. The person's sitting at a really cool computer. They got a headset on. They're taking emails. They're answering the phone. They're directing traffic that comes in. This is what we're going to call our conscious mind. The conscious mind is the recipient of all of the various things that go on. The things that happen to us that we're aware of, we call a stimulus. For example, if it's a bit too cold in the room, that's a stimulus. We might put on a jacket. So the reaction is what we call a response. Something happens, stimulus, response. We're hungry? Yeah, I eat something. Who remembers the research by Dr. Pavlov in this area? Somebody know Dr. Pavlov? What can you shape what he did with us? That's okay. It's hard to remember all the details. Dr. Pavlov wanted to experiment with stimulus and response. So he took some dogs and he would ring a bell and then feed them a nice piece of meat. Then he'd ring a bell the next day, feed them meat, ring the bell, feed them meat. Dogs love meat. They got excited about the idea of meat. And so whenever the meat would appear, they would begin to salivate. Let's have some meat. Eventually, all he had to do is ring the bell and the dogs would begin to salivate. Stimuli that become habit result in responses that are habits. All of us are humans and we're all creatures of habit. On a typical day, we may not realize that our mind is working like a filter. Now, as so much information comes into the brain, we can't possibly process all of it. Do any of you believe that we filter out stuff? Yeah, if you don't think we filter out stuff, try to stop listening to the quiet sound of the projector in the ceiling. Which now we can hear so loudly we wish somebody would turn it off. So it's a good thing we filter things out. If we were aware of everything happening, we would all go insane very, very quickly. Sometimes we filter things out based upon our past experiences. The idea of me saying, let's do a math test, some of you immediately said, no. Because your past experience with math tests did not end in a pretty way. Sometimes we're worried about something. And someone might say something gentle like, hello, nice to see you. And you say, what's nice about it? You see, we're all influenced and the filtering of stimuli goes on in this way. Now, in normal days, we don't have to think much, frankly. We have habits. We don't have to think about which hand do we brush our teeth with. We don't have to think about whether to put left shoe or right shoe on first. These are just habits. So in a normal day, we have a normal stimulus. For example, first thing in the morning, the alarm goes off. That's a stimulus. Response, hit the snooze. The alarm rings a second time. Response, hit the snooze again. This is just human behavior. But sometimes, have you ever had a day when so many things were happening, they're coming at you from different directions, different speeds, different focus, different urgency, that so much was going on, finally the brain just kind of locked up and went, ah! Who's ever had that feeling before? Too much going on. And then the phone rings and there's another thing going on. Ah! This is what's called information overload. Now, fortunately, the brain does not have to give up the ghost and go away forever. We have some other resources, and our subconscious mind works a bit like a warehouse or a storehouse. So this is Fred from the warehouse. He joins the conscious mind and says, hey, little lady, let me offload some of that problems for you. Offloads it down into the subconscious mind. Whew, now I can think again. The subconscious mind is kind of an interesting space. Nobody really understands it. I certainly don't. I do know that we're all influenced by our subconscious mind every day, all day long. So let's think about the subconscious mind for just a couple of moments. First of all, it is where everything is stored. It's like the perfect drive, the perfect Google Drive, the perfect iDrive. It's all up here. Everything is stored. Every experience, every memory, every sensation, every flavor. Studies were done at the University of Toronto by a neurosurgeon named Dr. Andres Lozano. With a patient's permission, he was able to operate and probe sections of their brain while they were fully awake. And he discovered by touching a certain spot of the brain, the patient could remember things vividly that had occurred 30 years before, that they'd not even thought about in 30 years. He removed the probe and the memory stopped. He touched the spot again, the memory came back vividly. It's tremendously promising research for people with dementia or Alzheimer's or severe memory loss. It helps us know the information is there. We just can't get to it all the time. For example, has anyone ever had the experience of an exam? Yes, you have. That you actually studied and prepared for? Well, maybe not so much, but maybe you can imagine studying and preparing. So you've really studied for this particular exam. You're ready for it. And you open up your exam and there's a certain question. And you say, I studied this one. I studied this one. I did study this one. You can picture the page in your book that the answer appears on, but in your mind, the page is empty. There's no information there. I studied, and the more you try to remember, the less you can remember. So finally, you draw a picture of a bird and you turn in your exam and you leave. 5 minutes later, what rushes into your brain? The answer, looking for us? It's so frustrating, right? Have you ever been in a conversation that's not going very well and your brain can't even react? And 2 minutes after you leave, so here's what I should have said. Well, where were you when I needed you, you slow brain up there? You see, it's all in there if only we could get it when we want to. But it's also where this thing we call self-image is stored over the course of our lifetimes. Now, who'd like to try to define self-image for me? Who can take a crack? What is self-image?
How you see yourself.
Perfect. It's how we see ourselves. And we don't see ourselves as either good or bad. We see ourselves along a broad spectrum, a broad range. For example, who plays a musical instrument in here? Great. What do you play? Guitar. Fantastic. So tonight, if we could go down to the Surhal, would you be willing to play for 5,000 people? Yeah. Okay. Now, if you observed her eyes, she's looking like, I think I'll say yes. Yes. In others, she has a very healthy self-image of herself as a guitar player. That's awesome. Some of the rest of you would be like, no, not going to do that one. There's no such thing as good or bad. There are degrees of goodness or badness. For example, we'd say, are you a good athlete? Well, it depends. And sorta. What sport? Who am I playing against? So self-image is conditional sometimes, but it's always how we see ourselves. In many ways, what we don't realize is this recording of our self-image has been happening since we were small children. We're not aware of it because it's like a very silent recording device. This is my most up-to-date recording device in my household, but probably most of you are more familiar with something like this that you can carry in your pocket. So let's pick on this person here. Your name is? Tarvi?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is hit record. Tell us your name.
Tarvi.
Okay, so then if I hit stop, rewind, and play, what do we expect it to say? Okay, now I'd like you to say it again. My name is Lady Gaga. I'm recording, just say my name is Lady Gaga.
My name is Lady Gaga.
Okay, so then I hit stop and record. It says, no, you're not. You're Tarvi. Lady Gaga is not that good as you are. In other words, if he tells the phone something that's not true, the phone will record what is not true. It will replay what is not true. If we record what is true, it will record and replay what is true. Does that make sense? So recording devices, in other words, the cool thing about recording devices, they don't have opinions. They just record. They don't make any judgments. They simply record. Don't you wish they actually had opinions sometimes? You're at some party going crazy and you go, hey, selfie, everybody. Wouldn't it be cool if your phone said, dude, you don't want to take that picture. You sure don't want to post that picture. Delete it right now. It'd be kind of helpful once in a while if our phone would do that, but unfortunately phones don't do that. They record the good, the bad, the true, the false, the ugly. They just record. Self-image is recorded by things that happen to us, but it's also recorded by our thoughts concerning things that happen to us. Who here, for example, has had someone say something that was really hurtful and painful to you? I've had that. They say painful things. The pain is once, but do we play it over and over in our mind? So that each time we play it, it's the pain again and again. And this recording device, it doesn't know it only happened once. It thinks it happens all the time. This is what happens with self-image. We record impressions all the time. Unfortunately, the brain has some other resources we can work. We're going to label one of these D, one of these C, and one of these R. D, we're going to say, stands for what we call drive or energy. The brain is the source of drive and energy. It empowers our muscles. It empowers our reactions. And it always answers the question, do I have a goal? Do I have a target? What am I striving for? Who here enjoys playing sports? Okay, Kenneth, what's your favorite sport?
Football.
Football. Okay, most of the world will call that football. In America, they call it soccer. Americans are very backward humans. So you love playing football. Let's suppose that you've got a team on your side. We got a team over there. You've got the ball. Kennett's about to score. He's a great striker. He rears back to kick the ball, and he suddenly realizes there's no net. Someone during the night stole the net. The other side recovers the ball. They're going down the field. They get ready to kick the goal, and there's no net on this side either. How much fun is football with no goals? What do? Pass the ball and sing happy songs to each other or what? You see, the energy in a sport comes from trying to achieve a target or a goal. Now, Kenneth, have you ever been in a football match where the score was a draw? It was an even score. There's 1 minute to go. It could go either way. What's your energy level like at that point? Really high, which makes no logical sense. You've been running for 90 minutes. You should be exhausted. You'd think, oh man, I'm just going to push. I'm going to go take a nap. You got to do this for me. But when we're trying to win a match or a game, our energy is crazy high. When we have a goal that's important to us, we have energy. Has anyone ever had an exam suddenly appear that you weren't quite ready for? And the night before, you had more energy to study than you've ever imagined in your life. You didn't even need coffee. You had so much fear, it kept you awake. The point is, when we have a goal, we have energy. Once, just for fun, I decided to test this theory. My wife, Maria, was not in town for the day. So I said, I am going to spend Saturday doing nothing. Like nothing. So I got up early so I could begin doing nothing quite early. And I sat in my favorite chair and I got busy doing nothing. Well, I guess I could watch television. Nope. That would be doing something. Okay. I could read. Nope. That would be doing something. And in less than 10 minutes, at the end of that day, I was more tired than if I'd worked in my garden for 8 hours lifting heavy loads. When there is no goal, there's no energy. And so if you've ever had this feeling waking up saying, whoa, man, I'm just not motivated. That's because you're not thinking about something that's very important that you must get done. People that have a goal or a target never say, I'm not motivated. They might say, I'm scared. They might say, I don't know how to do it. But they know there's a goal that's important and the energy continues dramatically, dramatically higher. Once we have a goal, we know what we're aiming for. An obvious question comes up, well, how can I get there? If I'm here and I want to get to Parnu, how do I get there? The answer is simple, Google Maps. In other words, we have a target, we're not sure how to get there. This part of our brain is what we're going to call creativity. Who regards themselves as creative? Who thinks they're fairly creative? Okay, if your hand is up, it's because you're musical, you're an artist, you enjoy writing. But everybody is creative when they have to be. For example, boys, have you ever been seen with a certain girl that you're not supposed to be with by somebody that you hoped wasn't going to be there? Isn't it amazing the creative story that came out of your mouth? It was like a work of art. It was a genius thing. We can all be creative when we have to be. And creativity is the way we're going to achieve the things we're not sure how to achieve. And then finally, we have R, and R we're going to call regulation. Regulation is sort of the traffic cop of the brain that makes sure that we're staying in our comfort zone, staying within our lines, staying within our lane. Who's ever heard of comfort zones before? I think most of us have heard about comfort zones. They're actually modeled after the way engineering designs climate control systems for buildings. We've got our thermostat set here. Let's suppose that I lock in on 20 degrees. When the temperature gets a bit too hot, the air conditioning will turn on and lower the temperature. Temperature gets a bit too cold, the heating will turn on and raise the temperature. It's not efficient to make a system that goes up and down at the slightest change in temperature. So they design them where there's a bit of a range. Maybe the temperature has to go to 20.5 before the air will turn on. It can drop as low as 19.5 before the heat comes on. This range is called the comfort zone. Nothing will change unless we get out of the comfort zone. Now, people, humans, have comfort zones, and they can be really good. When we're in our comfort zone, we feel peaceful, we feel easy. We're with friends we like to be with, doing things we enjoy doing, listening to music we like to listen to, engaging in activities we feel confident we can do. This is called being in the comfort zone, and it's peaceful and it's easy. But what are the emotions when you step too far outside of the comfort zone? It's incredible what goes on inside. It's almost as if this guy's saying, no, no, danger, do not do this, get out of here. There are physiological responses when we're too far out of the comfort zone. It's crazy. I mean, your palms start sweating, your arms are heavy, your knees are weak, there's vomit on your sweater already, it's mom spaghetti. Okay. When we're out of our comfort zone, sometimes even our body betrays us. It can be crazy, impossible to predict what's going to happen there. Now, my best story about comfort zones is a food story. It's called My Fun with Pulvu, our newest product. I married a Portuguese lady, and Maria grew up on an island. She loved all kinds of seafood. I grew up in the mountains. Seafood was something that came out of the freezer in a box. Before we got married, she wanted me to meet her aunts and her uncles. They lived in a predominantly Portuguese immigrant community in Massachusetts. I didn't speak Portuguese, but I wanted to impress her family. So I said, I would love to come over. Her mother had cooked for me a couple days before, a wonderful dish with sausage and beans and rice. It was fabulous. So I said, of course, I'd love that. What are we having? She said, we're having my favorite meal. It's called pulvu. Pulvu, what is that? She said, you'll find out. So we went to sit down, and this was a kind of interesting situation. I knew this was my final exam. I knew that the family was evaluating me because they wondered, why is Maria marrying a foreigner? Now, this was in the US, but I was definitely not Portuguese. So I'm looking at my aunts and uncles. None of them are smiling. And Maria's chatting away. My future mother-in-law, who's a lovely lady, comes with this big steaming bowl of something, puts it in front of me, directly in front of me, and removes the top of it. And Maria said, it's the pulvu. And I discovered at that moment that pulvu is actually octopus. And it was steaming. And it had just come out of the oven. And it had the suckers on it and the tentacles. And it was in its own juice. And it was right there in front of me, looking at me. And I looked at it and I went, oh, Maria, that's an octopus. She said, yes, Dan, the Portuguese word is pulvu. I said, but Maria, I don't eat octopus. People don't eat octopus. Octopus eats people, man. This is not good. And she said, well, it's for dinner. And I looked at this steaming mess of monster in front of me, and I looked at all these aunts and uncles not smiling. And I could picture one of them looking at me thinking, go ahead, punk. Make my day. This is what you call a crisis of values. The woman I love and the monster I'm supposed to eat. I didn't know what to do. I started to panic. I couldn't leave. They were all staring at me. So finally, I realized I must invoke the missionary's prayer. Oh God, I will get it down if you will keep it down. So I hesitantly took one bite, and I discovered it was the most delicious thing I had ever had in my life. I had 3 servings that night. Now when I'm a good boy, I get it on my birthday. I love it. I love pulvo. Release the Kraken. I love it. It's fantastic now. None of you are any different. I could say, oh, do you like this particular usually green vegetable? And you say, no. Have you had it before? No. I just know I don't like it because it's green. I don't eat green things. We're all funny, aren't we? But when we're out of our comfort zone, oh my gosh. So let's talk about for just a moment what's going on here. There's a sequence of things going on in the brain. First of all, a stimulus. There is a monster in front of me. I'm going to sort this out. Have I seen this before? Yes, in a horror film. What am I supposed to do? I could run and hide. I can't run and hide. What am I going to do? I need to be creative here. Oh, guess. I guess I'll use the missionary's prayer. This gives me a sense of direction, then I can respond. Does it take that long? No. You see, it doesn't take that long at all. What happens to us goes very, very quickly through the parts of our brain, subconscious, conscious, back and forth until we respond. Does it take that long? No. In fact, normally what happens is something will occur and we'll respond just like that. With no awareness that in our subconscious mind, thousands of times every day, stuff is reflecting back and forth, past experience, self-image, fear, doubt, everything else. This goes on over and over. It goes a long way to help us understand things we might be afraid of that we don't know why we're afraid of. A study was done in America, and it's interesting because I think almost every culture would have the same results. They asked American adults, what are your biggest fears? The things you fear the most. Any guesses what number one was?
Public speaking.
Public speaking was number one. Public speaking. Number four was dying. Which means the average American would prefer to die than to speak in public. And you know something? I don't think too many of us are very different in any culture in the world. Public speaking, why is this so frightening for us? I believe the answer starts when we're small children. Do any of you remember when you were 5 or 6 having to say something in front of your class? Say a poem, share a drawing, read a story. Who's your audience? The other children, right? And at that age, aren't children so warm, supportive, loving, hoping you'll succeed? No, they're not. I remember when I was a boy, I had to recite a story in front of my class. I had learned the story, but I began by saying the title of a completely different story. The whole class knew it. I didn't. So I said, my story is, and then I began a story, and my classmates went. So I started over. I gave the title and began with the wrong story, and they went. And I started to get really upset and nervous, and I started again. They go, you stink. Now, boys, when we're standing in front of a group of people and they're laughing, we don't know why they're laughing. What do we immediately conclude? Something must be open. The only problem with that is we don't want to look. So I dropped my pencil and I checked and nothing was open. They're laughing and I don't know why they're laughing. I looked at my teacher and she smiled at me. I saw she was like, whoa, this is horrible. It ended worse than it began. It was playtime. We went out to the playground and they said, hey, Dan, tell us your story again. The recording device in my brain kept recording this over and over. I went back and my teacher smiled encouragingly. I didn't think it was encouraging. I thought she was laughing. My recording device said, and even she's laughing at me. Rewind. Through the rest of the day, anyone I saw, I'd rewind and replay the story in my brain. When I went home, what was my mother's first question? How was school today? My father said, why are you crying? Talk to me right now. Years pass. Years pass. I was in front of an organization, much older. I was about to give a presentation. I'd worked on it. Oh man, I've lost my voice. Sorry. Well, looks like Dan won't be able to give his presentation. Maybe next time. Yeah, thanks a lot. Absolutely lost my voice because I knew if I spoke in front of them would be certain death by embarrassment. And you know, almost every fear that we have that is not based on a physical fear, an irrational fear, is caused by our subconscious mind going crazy with stuff. Have you ever seen a horror movie that you knew was a movie, but you still checked your closet, under your bed, all that stuff, right? It's the way our brains work. So we may be wondering, are we stuck here? Is there nothing we can do about this? Yes, there is. And I'll tell you about it someday. Have a good evening. Just messing with you right now. We're going to begin with what we call self-talk. Self-talk is defined in different ways, but I think Spencer Hayes, who is one of my most important mentors, one of the people that really built our company, had to say. Spencer said very simply that self-talk is what we say to ourselves about ourselves. Pretty simple, what we say to ourselves about ourselves. And what we choose to believe of what others say about us. If you came to my presentation in the fall, I said, one thing we can control is what we say to others, but we cannot control what they say to us. However, we can choose to believe it or not. Spencer had many reasons to grow up without good self-talk. First of all, he grew up very, very poor. And when he was 3 years old, his father left the family. When he was 5 years old, his mother left the family. Can you imagine being abandoned by both your father and your mother? He was raised by his grandmother. His grandmother said, Spencer, think good thoughts of yourself and good thoughts of other people. He had speech impediments. He had difficulty reading. Spencer became one of the most successful philanthropists, art collectors, business people the world has ever known. It's what we say to ourselves about ourselves and what we choose to believe of what others say. Self-talk reflects our self-image. Who's ever said this before? I think probably most of us have. So let me pick on this individual. What is your name? Oit. Okay. Do you speak Portuguese?
No.
Not so much. So would you please address the whole group in Portuguese and say good morning, but do it in the Portuguese language?
I can do that.
Okay, thanks for playing. I can't do that. How many of you are glad I did not pick on you? All right. And he's feeling lots of pressure now for no good reason because I asked you a very unfair question. I can't do that. Now, do you remember the brain, the D? D responds to what? Drive or energy responds to?
Goals.
A goal. If we can't do something, what does that say to the drive part of our brain? Don't need me. Can't do it? Don't need me. I'll come back to you in just a moment. Have we ever said this one before? I just can't remember. Just terrible with names. Oh man, if I could only remember names. You go up to somebody in some trendy bar someplace, say, hey, you know what, man? Your name is really familiar. I just don't remember your face. Wait a minute, I got that wrong. It's very confusing. Have you ever said this one to yourself? Hey man, that's just the way I am. That's just me. That's just how I am. For example, do we all know that one friend who's always late? It doesn't matter. The job could be to go from me to Oit. All I have to do is get from here to here. You give me 2 hours. I start off, I get distracted. It's like, whoa, hey, check this out. This is cool. Whoa, hey, man. Oh, hey, this is amazing back. This is so neat. Oh, this is, hey, check that out. Oh, shoot, I'm late. Oh, sorry, man. And you go, Dan, again, man, you're 20 minutes late. I know, man. That's just the way I am. I'm always late. You know, I've always been late. Shoot, my mother, she carried me for 11 months. You know, I just always been late, dude. We all know that person, don't we? And then, of course, there's stress. Dude, I am like really stressed out. I'm feeling so much stress. Stress is a real factor. Have we all said every one of these? I certainly have. But here's the crazy thing about our brains. John Milton, tremendous writer, wrote 400 years ago in England. We still read his works today. Said the mind is its own place. The mind can make a heaven out of hell, or a hell of heaven. Let's think about that for a moment. How many of you know people that have huge obstacles they're facing in their life? Physical challenges, income, huge challenges. And yet they're among the most encouraging, positive people you've ever met. Do we know other people that have every possible advantage and all they ever do is complain and moan about how miserable life is? You see, the mind can take a bad situation and make it better, can make a great situation, make it horrible. It's all about the power of the mind. We can adjust our self-talk just a bit. So, wait, repeat after me. Say, bon dia.
Bon dia.
Perfect accent even. Everybody try that. Bon dia.
Bon dia.
What does that mean? Good morning in Portuguese. Aren't you glad you came tonight? Just think about it. Next time you're in Lisbon, Portugal, you've had too much to drink the night before, you're on a street in the middle of the morning, policeman kicking you with his boot, you can smile and say, bon dia. It's a good start. Now, wait, why can you say it now and you could not a minute ago? You couldn't say it a few minutes ago. Now you can. Why? How are you able to do that now? Because I taught you, exactly. But remember, as soon as he says, I can't do that, the brain responds by saying, then you don't need our help. Can we make a small adjustment? Here's what I mean by adjustment in self-talk. Self-talk is not Hogwarts. Self-talk is not magic. I can go home tonight and say 50 million times, I am 2 meters tall, I have blonde hair, and I can bench press 250 kilos. I can do that 1 million times, and tomorrow I'll still only be able to bench press 200, if you believe that. The point of it is, this is not about fantasy. This is not about magic. This is about a small adjustment so that I can maybe do a little bit better in life. So instead of saying, I can't do that because that's a showstopper, I'll try this one. I think I can do that. I just don't know how yet. I think I can do that. I just don't know how yet. Everyone say that one time really quickly. I think I can do that. I just don't know how yet. Now, knowing how the brain works, right? As soon as we say, I think I can do that, what part of the brain wakes up? Driver energy. It wakes up and goes, oh, gonna do something? I'm here. I just don't know how yet. Creativity says, let's figure it out. We can Google it. We can go find a Portuguese person. We can take a class. We can go to Lisbon. We can learn how to do this thing. Suddenly I have drive and I have creativity and I start to figure things out. But as the minute I say, I can't do that, no hope. This is what I mean by leverage and a small adjustment. Can you do that? I think I could. Don't know how yet, but I think I could. It's a small but really powerful thing to do. Instead of saying, dude, that's just the way I am, I'm stuck this way, let's change it and say, or I can't remember something, hey, try this technique. It's coming to me. Hang on, I'll get it. It's coming to me. I've done this so many times, this physical movement, it's like it pulls the memory right out of me. Eventually it's there much faster, much more accurately than anything you can imagine. Instead of, that's just the way I am, say, yeah, that was me. Not anymore. I'm the most on-time person you've ever seen. I'm here. And the stress thing, I got a great suggestion for you. Instead of saying how stressed out we are, why don't we just say this? Man, I am really in demand. I am so in demand right now. Woo! Everybody wants a piece of me. I tell you what, have your guy call my guy. We'll do lunch. Ciao. What kind of people are in demand? Sports people, celebrities, successful people, they're in demand. Stressed out, in demand. It changes how we feel about the problem. The problem may be exactly the same. How we feel about it changes. Self-talk feeds very directly into self-image. Remember our recording device? I might only fail at public speaking once. Each time I replay that recording in my brain, it's as if I failed again and again and again and again. Dr. Maxwell Maltz studied this stuff. Now, Maltz had an interesting career. He was actually a cosmetic plastic surgeon. Any idea what a cosmetic plastic surgeon does for a living? He did this in Beverly Hills, California. Yes, he changed people's faces. He changed their bodies to make them look more beautiful. And he was really good at it. But he discovered over time something really interesting. Many of his patients were very happy. Maybe they'd go to him and say, Dr. Maltz, I need a new nose. Can you give me a new nose? He'd give them a new nose. They'd say, oh, Dr. Maltz, I love you. It's beautiful. But many of his other patients would say, oh, it's a horrible nose. You did a really bad job. You're a terrible doctor. I'm going to see you in court. And he'd done a great job. What he eventually concluded, it's not the nose they don't like. It's themselves. And he retrained himself as a psychotherapist. And he helped more people be happy with their life by self-acceptance than he ever did as a surgeon. Maxwell Maltz concluded, in fact, that the self-image is the key to human personality and human behavior. If we change the self-image, we're going to change the personality. And we will change the behavior. If we change the self-image, will change the personality. My favorite story about this is about a man named Viktor Serebryakov. Aren't you upset your mother didn't name you Viktor Serebryakov? What a cool name that is. Now, Viktor grew up in England in the 1920s and 1930s. His father was an immigrant from Russia. His mother was from the poor East End of London, and she spoke a brand of English called Cockney. Cockney is very difficult even for English people to understand. So he grew up with Russian in one ear, Cockney English in the other. He was very confused in trying to express himself in speech. When Victor went to school, nobody could understand him, and he couldn't understand people. And so after a few years, the teachers concluded he was untrainable. That's the word they use, untrainable. He cannot learn. So he left school. He had no schooling. He actually became a laborer in a factory and decided that he was just too stupid to learn. He was just stupid. When World War II happened, Victor was of the age he could enlist in the British Army. They did a variety of tests, intelligence tests, and they discovered something really amazing about Victor. They discovered that he had an IQ greater than 160 points. An average IQ is 100. Now, does anybody know the word used if your IQ is greater than 150? The word is genius. And when this was explained to Victor that he was not stupid, he was actually a genius, he didn't believe it at first. It took a long time for him to accept it. But once he did, he began his own journey of self-education. He became very well read. He became highly respected. In fact, he became a manager in the same factory where he used to be a dumb laborer. He wrote several books over the course of his life. I bought one time. It was called Astounding Puzzles by Viktor Serebryakov. And the only thing I could understand was the title of the book. He became the first chairman of the International Mensa Society. And guess what happened to his income? Now, here's my question. What changed in Viktor Serebryakov? Did he become more intelligent? No. But one day he saw himself as stupid. Another day he saw himself as a genius. Self-image is the key to human personality and human behavior. Self-talk feeds directly into self-image. And we already know that our self-image will cause us to behave in certain ways. Self-image, in fact, plays very directly into our effort. Our effort is the work that we put forth, our actions. Actions, in fact, depend upon self-image. If we don't believe we can do a math test, we're not even going to start. If we don't believe we can say good morning in Portuguese, we're not even going to start. Self-image feeds directly into our actions. Our actions, in turn, feed directly into the results we get, and the results we get become a part of our self-talk. This is called the self-coaching cycle. Let's suppose that we do something really poorly. We make huge mistakes. Our self-talk is, you are no good. Self-image begins to say, okay, I guess I agree with you. I don't make judgments, I just record. Next time we have a similar challenge, we're not even going to try. Therefore, we don't get good results, and it feeds into our self-talk. Does this make sense? People can talk themselves downward in life. They can also talk themselves upward in life, depending entirely upon how they manage this. So throughout our entire day, we're talking to ourselves, not even in words, sometimes in unverbal communication. Our self-image determines our actions determine our results. It feeds back to our self-talk. When I say results, I mean almost anything. Better grades, more fitness, happier, more successful, friendship level, feeling good about ourselves. Most of us would like to have greater results, wouldn't we? We'd like to feel more successful. And in my diagram here, what's the most direct way to get better results? The most direct way? Change our actions, right? That's the most direct way. And in fact, for most things, we can force a change in our actions. But if you've ever tried to quit a very bad habit that you've had for a really long time, it ain't easy. My wife, Maria, used to smoke. If you've ever known anybody trying to quit smoking, it is incredibly hard to do. And she would tell you, it's easy to quit smoking. I've done it many times. When she was trying to quit smoking, you could say, hey, Maria, do you want a cigarette? And she'd say, nah, I am really trying to quit. Hey, how about just one? Well, okay, maybe just one. You see, that's the self-talk of a smoker who's trying to quit. When my baby sister died at 46 from lung cancer caused by smoking cigarettes, Maria's desire to quit ended forever. From that point on, if you said, hey, Maria, do you want a cigarette? She'd say, no, thanks. I don't smoke. The first is the self-talk of a person that's trying to quit smoking. The second, the self-talk of a non-smoker. She could force herself to not smoke for a week, 2 weeks, but until she changed how she saw herself, it would happen. And you know, we're all that way. Does anybody ever make resolutions on New Year's Day? This year's going to be different. Sometimes those resolutions even last as much as 2 days. Because we might try to force a change in our actions. We'll get a short-term improvement in our results, but eventually those results fade. Somebody wants to lose weight. They go on a powerful diet. They lose weight. They get off the diet. They gain the weight back again. Up and down, up and down. It doesn't become permanent until we change how we see ourselves. So the only way to have a change in our actions over and over is to improve our self-image. And the only way I know to improve the self-image is to focus on self-talk. The only thing we can control absolutely in this cycle is how we talk to ourselves. Do we talk to ourselves in a healthy way? Or do we talk to ourselves in a destructive way? I can say this. If someone else talked to you the way you sometimes talk to yourself, you'd leave that person. Let's not be so destructive. Let's figure out how to use this stuff. So first of all, self-talk takes the form of affirmations. They're words. I'm going to put a couple of words up on the screen, and you tell me what comes to mind. Spring holiday, it's cold in Talon. You can go any place you want to go in the world. Let's go do this thing. I'm sure you had an instant spot you'd love to go. But my guess is your brain did not flash words. It didn't say, I want to go to a BEACH. I want to sit on the SAND, and I want to absorb harmful radiation from the SUN. Probably what happened is your brain immediately jumped to something a lot more fun, and it's images of warmth, images of sun, feelings of joy. So words themselves should in fact trigger pictures or images. Pictures themselves trigger, in fact, feelings or emotions. And we are all emotional beings. Even though we think we're logical Estonians, we're all emotional beings. So if we can learn to manage our emotions by the way we talk to ourselves, good things inevitably are going to happen from that. So let's practice one really quickly. People often will greet another and say, hello, how are you? What's a typical response? I'm fine. How are you? In Estonia, how you doing? Normal. Typical, right? So just for fun, try this one. Affirmations are always in the first person. They're about yourself. So we're going to start with the word I. How are you? I. An action, present tense word, feel. And just for laughs, try this. Absolutely unstoppable. How you doing? I feel absolutely unstoppable. And look them in the eye and then say, and yourself, how you doing? And they'll say, normal. Have a lot of fun with this one. Now, I don't for 1 second believe you're going to leave this meeting tonight, and when you see a friend later on, they're going to go, hey, how's it going? You're going to go, I feel absolutely unstoppable. You won't do that. You're too cool. So it's okay to say normal, but inside say, I am so unstoppable, man. I could go through 15 brick walls in a row and not even slow down. Self-talk is not about what you say to other people. It's what we say to ourselves. Is it written in the law of Estonia that you cannot be your own cheerleader? Don't think so. Be your own cheerleader. Yay me, yay me, yay me. There's no law against it. Instead, most of us are our own enemy. That doesn't help too much. Now, there's another very famous psychologist who studied self-talk at length. His name is Dr. Bob the Builder. Dr. Bob the Builder, what did he always ask his crew? Can we fix it? Yes, we can. Absolutely. You see, Dr. Bob the Builder was a pioneer of more of what's called the interrogatory school of self-talk. Actually, it was scientists at the University of Pennsylvania became curious, is affirmation always a statement? Or could it sometimes actually be a question? So they took 3 groups of students. Group A was put in a room and told to say the words over and over again, I cannot, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. Group B was told to go to a room and say the words, I can, and group 3 was in a different room and they were told to say, can I? Can I? Can I? All 3 groups were then given identical word puzzles. Guess which group did the worst? The I can't, obviously. I can did much better, but the group that did the best was the ones that said, can I? Because asking the question unlocks the creativity part of our brain. Can I? When my wife Maria decided she wanted to run a half marathon because it looks like so much fun, her friends who are experienced runners said, now Maria, you need to have good affirmations, good self-talk. Who's ever done a half marathon? Anybody going to do one this weekend? Okay. Well, if you've ever done a half marathon, you know that about kilometer 15 or 16, your desire to run goes to 0. Psychologically, we hit something called what? The wall. It's not an actual wall. It feels like an actual wall. There's no desire. There's no glory. There's no fun anymore. Maria was prepared to hit the wall. So she said, Maria, you can do this. Maria, you're a good runner. Maria, you've trained for this. Maria, you're good at this. Eventually, the brain said, I don't care about any of that stuff, Maria. I just want to sit down. So she used the question part and she said, hey, Maria. Yes, Maria. Can you count to 60? Yes, I can. So she began to count her steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. When she got to 60, good job, Maria. Can you count to 60 again? Yes, I can. 1, 2. She counted her way across the finish line. When she crossed the line in the Paris half marathon, her hands in the air, she said, I did it, I did it, I did it. I said, honey, you did it. She said, I counted my way across the finish line. It all started with, can you count to 60? Unlock the creativity in the brain. This is just to give you another toolkit if statements don't work for you. So my recommendation, we all have different areas of our life. We have our business, we have our grades, we have our school, we have our friendship, we have our health, our fitness, our financial well-being. Develop affirmations in each area of our life. Affirm them. And when we do something correct, because we do a lot of things right, say to yourself as loudly as you can, something along the lines of, that's like me. That's like me. Can I hear that one time? That's like me. So let's say you have trouble getting up in the morning. So you set a goal, tomorrow I'm going to get out of bed before 12 noon. If you get out of bed at 11:59, stumble out of bed and say, whoa, that's like me. Affirming our victories is so important. In fact, a technique we teach in our consulting courses and with our clients, this is not an actual website. So if you try to Google this, you won't find an actual website that says this. This is a simple way to remember how to build our own self-image every day. When a day is over, when an event is over, when an experience is over, let's start by asking ourselves, what went well? What went well? Maybe you had an exam and you know you missed half the questions. What went well? You got half of them right. What went well? You had a terrible conversation with a friend. It started badly, it ended worse. What went well? We didn't kill each other. There's always something good we can pull even out of a tough situation. What went well? That's only half of the equation though, because the other half at the EBI part, this deals with even better if. EBI stands for even better if we had resolved our problem. Even better if I'd studied more and got a few more answers correct. What went well? Even better if. It's a way for continuous improvement in what we do throughout our lives. Catch ourselves doing things right. And what do we say when we do something right? We say, dude, that's like me. Now, do we ever make mistakes? I hope you make mistakes. I make them every day. It's a sign of being a human. My favorite example of somebody making a mistake and using terrible self-talk afterward was years and years ago. My wife, Maria, and I were with some friends at a restaurant. Before dinner, we all ordered some wine, normal stuff, right? And we saw the waitress over there preparing the wine, pouring it on, and putting in glasses and putting them on the tray. We were sitting on the other side of the room. She came walking across with the wine on the tray. Now, we were sitting here chatting and having a good conversation, and I glanced up at the waitress, and I glanced up again because she had tripped. And as she tripped, she was right in front of me. As she tripped, I looked up, and the tray was no longer parallel to the ground. It was on the way to becoming perpendicular to the ground. What was on the tray? The wine. The wine left the tray. The wine was moving rather rapidly toward me, accelerating, in fact, at 9.8 meters per second. I knew the angle of reflection and the angle of incidence were going to be identical. And right in front of me, it splashed all over me, and I was covered with red wine. I looked at the waitress. She looked at me with horror, and do you know what she said? She said, I knew I was going to do that. She literally said, I knew I was going to do that. Now, what I wanted to do is say, if you knew you were going to do that, why didn't you do it at their table instead of my table? But because I had no pride left at that moment, I just said, excuse me, miss, I'll bet that's the first time you've ever done that, isn't it? She acted like I'd slapped her, and she said, oh, you're right. I've never done that before. I'm so sorry. Now think about it. She had never done that before. Why did she say, I knew I was going to do that?
She was always afraid of it.
She was always afraid of it. Has anybody here ever been a waiter or a waitress? What's one of your nightmares? Exactly that. Did you ever have it almost happen? Like we're so close to happening? Well, sure you did. So what is the brain thinking about? Oh man, that almost happened. Next time. Then you go tell your friends, hey, let me tell you what almost happened. And they say, hey, you know what, man? It happens to everybody. It's only a matter of time. Your day's coming. And eventually, because our self-talk feeds our self-image, it's only a matter of time. I'm going to pick on Dan Moore and cover him with wine. I knew she didn't do that very often. Waitresses that do that are not employed. They have no jobs. So the whole point of it is, when we make a mistake, and we're all going to, let's celebrate the mistakes. Next time you make a mistake, try this. Say, okay, gold medal. This was a gold medal screw up. A gold medal Olympic right now for the biggest mistake ever. I just won. Don't hide from it. Just admit you screwed it up. You made a mistake. Good Lord, welcome to being human. Thank you for being human. It's kind of cool. And then move forward. Be even better if I didn't do it that way next time. Make a different mistake next time. Isn't it boring to make the same mistakes over and over? That's totally boring. Make a different one. Learn from it. Most of us know what criticism is like, but most of us are even worse at absorbing compliments. Like, for example, maybe you guys, you're playing your sports. Kenneth's out there, he kicks this fantastic goal, and they say, great kick, and he goes, oh man, I was so lucky. The defender was picking his nose. I was so lucky. Lucky? Guy trains for years? No way is that lucky. Girls, you know better. Oh, that's a lovely jacket. Oh, this thing? I nicked this off a homeless lady. You kidding me? This is no good. It's horrible. It's awful. Come on. When somebody pays us a compliment, they mean it. Let's reinforce it and say something simple like this. Something simple like, you know what? You paid me a great compliment. That makes me feel good. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. You know, if somebody pays a compliment and we say, oh no, it was nothing. Don't expect another one anytime soon. Let's form the habit when somebody compliments, thank you, dude. That makes me feel good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much. Makes me feel good. And then share another one right back at them. It makes a difference. My colleague, Trey Campbell, some time ago shared a story with me. A person in their old age reflecting on their life. And they said, you know, when I was young, I was going to change the world. I found it was really difficult to change the world. So I decided to change my country. My country didn't really want to change. So I said, I'm going to change our town. I couldn't change the town. So I said, I'm going to change my family. Now that I'm older, I realized the only person I actually can change is myself. If when I was younger I had changed myself, then maybe my family would have been better. Maybe our family could have changed our town. Our town might have been able to change our country. And our country maybe, just maybe, could have changed the world. Young people, there's no limit to your future. It's not written anywhere that people in this room will not, in fact, change the world. I want to thank you and every member of the Baltic countries and all the Eastern European countries for opening their hearts to refugees from Ukraine. You didn't have to do that. But it's the joy of realizing these people had no choice in the matter and opening up your hearts, opening your homes. It's the most important thing we can do. When we do that, when we look in their eyes, when we talk to a refugee, they don't know when they're going to go home. I had that experience last week. To see a young mother, after we chatted with her, come up to my wife and with a Ukrainian translator say, "Can I just give you a hug?" And Maria gave her a hug and she said, "Can I have another hug?" You don't need words for that. Each person in this room has a responsibility. Take what you've been given, because you've been given so much, and use it for good. So proud to associate with you. So grateful that you're here. People say, "So what do you do for a living, Dan?" It's pretty simple. I say, I work with the greatest young people in the world, because I do. So thank you so much for being here tonight. I hope you found some words worth remembering. Most important, not what I said, what you think about because of what I said. So thank you so much for all the organizing, for the team here, and most of all for you. Have a great evening. Aita.